How would you like to know the step-by-step process on exactly how to build your dream business? Well, in this training, what I've done is I've compiled my 3 best trainings on business building, put them all together so you don't have to go look for them, and I've compiled them all into one mega course, all for free. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to see more content like this. So subscribe right now. With no further ado, let's get into it. Just imagine what it will feel like when you finally begin to discover together the #1 secret of why it's easier to get rich today than it ever has been in all of human history. Now, why does getting rich seem so hard and so difficult to so many people? You may not like to hear it like this, but the controversial answer is the reason why getting rich feels so hard to so many people is because most people are trying to make a fortune in the present by making a living in the past. What does that mean? We're talking all about it today in this video. Before we get into the video today, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It pushes this content in front of more people. It's completely free for you. And obviously it allows you to see this content as soon as it's released. So what do I mean by most people are trying to make a fortune today by making a living in the past? Well, I've got really, really good news for you, and I've also got really, really bad news for you. The really, really good news is that you don't need a college degree anymore to make an amazing living and even a fortune in today's world. Now, the bad news is if you do go to college, and by the way, nothing wrong with going to college, but if you do go to college and get a degree, by the time you're done with your degree, you're going to find yourself finally prepared to make a living in a world that no longer exists. Unfortunately, by the time you do graduate college, what you learned in your first year is already out of date. It's obsolete by the time you graduate. Why? Because technology speeds things up so fast. Technology changes the world so fast that what you learned when you first went into college, it no longer serves you as you're getting out of college. So therefore, these individuals who are going to college are attempting to do something that worked for their parents, it worked for their grandparents, but it does not work for today. So check this verse out in Luke chapter 16, verse 8. It says this: "The children of this world are more wise in their generation than the children of light." What does this mean? Listen, it is my conviction that many times the people of the world, right, unbelievers, are more wise in their dealings because many times those people are willing to do the thing that works in their generation. And many times people in the church, believers, God's people, for whatever reason, we love to just hang on to what worked in the last generation or hang on to what worked 2 generations ago, when the Bible is literally saying here, this is Jesus talking out of the book of Luke. He's saying, listen, I want you to be wise in your generation, right? So in today's video, I hope to share some light on how to get rich today. And hopefully you can become wise in your generation and learn how to make money in your generation and not your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation or your great-grandparents' generation, because that stuff don't work anymore. We've got to wise up. We've got to become wise in our generation, and we have to tap into the opportunities that are available to us today in this generation. So most people who create new wealth, and by the way, this isn't like a blanket statement 100% of the time, but most of the time, people who create new wealth do it by taking massive action on the humongous opportunities that are available to them in their generation. In fact, my mentor says it like this: you cannot understand the mystery of wealth until you first understand the history of wealth. And you have to admit, for most people around the world, wealth is a mystery, but I don't want wealth to be a mystery for you any longer. I want to help you become wise in your generation. So let's come here to the board and let's start digging in. So let's talk about how wealth was created in every generation, okay? So watch this. From the beginning of time, okay, from the Garden of Eden all the way to about 1750 or so, in this generation, this was the agricultural age. Agricultural age. Now, what was the agricultural age? The agricultural age, in this age, wealth was signified by land. Okay, so the more land you had, the more wealth you had. What does that mean? Okay, so in agriculture, obviously from the beginning of time, book of Genesis, all the way to about the mid 1700s, the way that you created wealth was very, very slow. Why? Because in order to create wealth, you had to have land that you could work the land, have farms, plant seeds, do crops. And here's the crazy part. The reason why wealth, for the most part, moved so slow in the agricultural age is because there was only a harvest like once a year. So like you had to hope and pray that the weather was good. You had to hope and pray that, you know, the birds didn't come and like eat up your crops. You had to hope and pray that the harvest was actually a good one. You had to hope and pray that all the watering was done. You had to hope and pray that the sun shone just perfectly. And if all of this crazy stuff happened perfectly, then you would get a harvest once a year. And this was so crazy, man, because once a year you get this big harvest, you go harvest everything out. And that's whenever you would have enough, obviously, for you and your family, but also to go sell into the marketplace, right? Maybe you've got a harvest of tomatoes and the guy or gal down the street has a harvest of carrots and you guys sell to each other, right? And everybody knows that you're the tomato guy and she's the carrot gal or whatever it is, right? And he over there is the apple person and, you know, she's the peach lady or whatever it is. And so that's a lot of how the market and how the economy moved was off of these very slow systems. And unfortunately, the only way to build wealth back in the agricultural age was you had to have land, right? So if you were born into a family that did have land, then chances are you, unless somebody like from another country came and like raided your farm and like plundered everything and took over, unless something like that happened, chances are you were probably going to just be wealthy your whole entire life, right? And unfortunately, if you were born into a family that didn't have land, chances were that you were probably going to stay poor your whole entire life. In fact, in the agricultural age, there was no middle class, right? It was either like you were wealthy because you had land, or you were very poor because you didn't have land. And this is the way, for the most part, that the world worked. In fact, almost all of the economy on the globe moved at a very slow pace in the agriculture age because it was just dependent on a once a year harvest. So here's how people would actually make a little bit of money if they were poor in the agriculture age, all right? So these lords of the land, in fact, that's where we get the word landlord from, right? These men and women who owned the land, they were the lords of the land. They would have little spaces on their land to have, you know, poor servants to come and either live on the land or work the land. And if you were poor, you had to go out and you had to work the land during the time of sowing, right? And then you had to water everything. You had to work from the sweat of your brow, digging with shovels and picks and axes and making sure all the parasites and everything are off of all the plants and the fruits, right? You're out there in the sun every single day. And the way that you got paid was if you worked a day's work, you would get a day's wage. Unfortunately, for a lot of people around the world right now, this mindset of like, oh, a day's worth of work for a day's wage, it's still in the mindset today in 2024 when I'm recording this video right now, right? Because of the opportunities that are available to us today in this generation, we don't have to put in a day's work to get a day's wage. In fact, you can put in some creative work and you could reap a lifetime of benefits just from a moment of creativity. But before I get ahead of myself, let's keep talking about this. So these paupers and these poor people that would work the land, if they did good enough, right, they'd bring the harvest to the master, to the landlords, right? And if they did a good enough job, then the landlord would give them just enough food for their family, maybe a tiny bit of pay just so that they could continue living. And the whole cycle started over again the next day, like work the land, water everything, make sure there's no pests, right? And so in the agricultural age, that's why there was no middle class. So this is the number one reason why in the agricultural age, wealth would move very, very slow, because the global economy was always waiting on an annual harvest. Now, obviously, in different parts of the world, the harvests would happen at different times. So it's not like there was one global harvest all at the same time, but you know, in this region, it would harvest at this time once a year. At this region, it would harvest at this time once a year. And so everything in the economy was moving super slow because everyone was just waiting for, we need some rain, right? Or man, it's been too cloudy, we need some sun. Or man, this year's harvest was not very good and we didn't make that much money. Hopefully next year we can scrape by until next year. Hopefully it'll be good enough, right? So that's why, guys, in the agricultural age, the only way to make more money was to have more land. If you could somehow have a good harvest and go purchase some more land, then now you can have, you know, bigger farming areas and maybe a little bit more servants, a little bit bigger of a harvest. And honestly, guys, this was the slowest in all of history that money and wealth was created. But let's move on to the next generation where real wealth was created. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the training. I wanted to take a few moments real quick to invite you to join me for my upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge, okay? This is a 5-day live virtual event where I invite entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs just like you to come spend 5 days with me and get live training on the 5 moves that anyone can take in order to scale and skyrocket their business and their revenue. Now, the best way to join is as a VIP because VIPs get to spend an extra hour with me every single day and ask your questions live. My most successful students have all been VIPs. That's the best way to join. Listen, you don't want to miss the upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge. It's completely live. It's coming up right around the corner. Click the link down below in the description. Grab your ticket today. Now back to the training. So the next generation where real wealth was created was about 1750 to about the 1940s, okay? And this was the industrial age, okay? And remember, in the agricultural age, land equaled wealth. Well, guess what? In the industrial age, guess what happened? Now, machines equaled wealth, okay? So after hundreds and thousands of years of the global economy being based off of agriculture, men begin to get more wise. And remember, like the book of Luke chapter 16 told us, they begin to get wise in their generation. And somebody somewhere started going, what if we could create like these machines, instead of having 100 guys out there in the field or 100 ladies out there, whatever, picking berries, or hundreds of people, if you have a big land or a big farm, hundreds of people out there harvesting the pumpkins or whatever it was. What if we could create these machines that would do the work of 100 men in a day, right? And so they begin to innovate. They begin to go, this would be a pretty crazy idea. And one thing led to another, and they started building machines that could literally replace the work of 100 men. They could do it with a machine in one single day. So what did this mean? This meant that wealth was now being generated on a much larger scale, and not just a larger scale of wealth, but a faster speed of wealth. Why? Because these machines would do the work of 100 men in a day, right? And it wasn't just like tractors and machines. This is where we started getting like, trains, right? Trains, right? Assembly lines, factories. This is where unions were formed. And the biggest thing that came in the industrial age was permission. What does that mean? Now, think about this, okay? So all the way up into like the 1940s, if you were like a good singer, or if you were an author, right? If you were somebody who had creativity, the only way for you to make it in society or to make it out there in the world was for somebody with one of these factories or one of these machines to actually give you permission. Like, it's mind-blowing to me that there are people out there who, because we have social media today, right? So they're like, all we have to do is just pick up our smartphone and start shooting content. There's no permission at all. We don't need to have a record executive tell us we're good enough. We don't have to have a publisher tell us that our book can actually be released. There's no permission today. But back then, There was so much permission, man. Like, you couldn't get ahead because if you were creative, because you needed somebody to be like, you're good enough or you're not good enough. And honestly, in the day of permission here in the industrial age, okay, so all these machines are being built, assembly lines, trains, right? Automobiles, like all this stuff is starting to boom. But if you were a creative who wanted to actually impact culture and serve the world with your creativity, you just needed somebody to tell you were good enough, whether you were or not. You just needed somebody who knew somebody, who knew somebody, who knew somebody, who knew somebody in the industry to finally give you permission, right? Now, here's the worst part about this whole permission culture that came out in the industrial age. This is where modern school, this is where the modern school system was instituted, was right here in the industrial age. Now think about this, like, you know, the industrial age stuff is booming, right? Like, you're no longer having to like dig the ground with a shovel yourself, but maybe you're driving a tractor. Maybe you are, let's talk about the assembly lines, right? Like, maybe you're working in one of these factories with these cool new machines that speed harvest up, and you're at the assembly line, like doing this and stuff in the box or whatever it is that you're doing. And could you imagine, like, the boss comes in, right? And the boss goes, hey, John, you're doing a great job here on the assembly line. You know, it would be really awesome if you could actually go back to school at nighttime, maybe get a little bit more education so that you could be a little bit more qualified. And after you receive your degree, then maybe you could come back, and maybe instead of you working the actual assembly line, maybe you could manage the assembly line. And this is where people were like, hey, this sounds awesome. So guess what John, in this context, guess what this person would do? They would go home to their family at night and be like, hey guys, listen, there's an opportunity for us to not have to work the assembly line or not have to drive the trucks or not have to try to, drive the trains and be gone from you guys for a week. Now, if I just go back to school and I got a little bit more educated in the school system and I got a degree, I could come back and maybe become a manager. They'll pay me a little bit more money. That way the boss doesn't have to manage everybody. I can manage people. Guys, this is exactly how traditional school was set up in the industrial age. And so guess what happens? What worked for their generation, right? What worked in the industrial age in the 1940s, what worked for our grandparents and their parents doesn't necessarily work today for us. That was wise in their generation, but going to school to just, get more in debt, to get a bigger degree so you can come back and hopefully one day be a manager and they'll pay you maybe a couple dollars extra an hour, that's not necessarily wise in our generation. So I want you guys to really pay attention on these couple of different timelines I've given you so far. Check this out right quick, okay? So here, from the beginning of time to about the mid-1700s, okay? Notice this, okay? This is a super long time, right? Super long time. Beginning of time to like 1750s, it's like thousands of years where the world's economy was ran off of agriculture. And then from 1750s to about the 1940s, now the world's economy is being ran off of the industrial age. But something interesting here, okay? This time frame was not nearly as long as this one, even though this one was still pretty long, okay? One thing that you need to take notice of is that every generation's opportunity, it actually, not only does technology and ideas and innovation speed up wealth, but every new generation's opportunity, it literally is replaced by the old generation's opportunity. Think about this, right? Agriculture. Like, we're out here working the land, and guess what? We got so good at agriculture, people started getting smart and going, what if we had machines? And they're like, yeah, let's build some machines. So they started building some machines, right? And now all these machines are doing the work of 100 men in a day. Like, stuff is speeding up. Even though it's still going a little bit slower in the years, wealth is beginning to speed up. But watch this. Remember what I just said. The current generation's innovation and opportunities always gives way to something better. And the better thing that it gives way to actually replaces the current generation's way. How do I know this? Because come over here with me to the board and let's check out what comes next. All right, now check this out. So from about the 1940s, now all of this is approximate, guys, right? But check this out. From about the 1940s to about 1981, we went into the next economic age. And this age was the distribution age, okay? And just like how in the agricultural age, land equaled wealth, okay? Just like in the industrial age, machines equaled wealth. Now in the distribution age, guess what? You got it. Those who owned the distribution outlets, they were the ones who were able to create wealth in their generation, okay? So remember, we've got to be wise in our generation. Every economic era of the past created the next economic era that replaced it, okay? So what came in the distribution age? Like, think about this, okay? So we go from the agricultural age, right? We got all this farming and everything. Then in the next generation, they wised up. They said, man, we could speed this up if we just had some machines, if we had some trains, if we had some cars, right? So they begin to build all of these machines. And then in the distribution age, something crazy happened, right? They were producing at such high volumes in the market, right? Like now, it wasn't just a once a year harvest because we didn't have enough guys or the weather wasn't quite right. Now we had machines and assembly lines, and we have cars that can take the harvest from your farm, you know, across the city in 30 minutes instead of a 12-day walk journey, you know, like, so stuff sped up, and now everything was being created en masse at such a high level. Now people are like, well, man, we have to figure out a way how to distribute all of these goods so that we can begin to serve more people and make even more money. Guys, just like this happens in every generation, okay? When this happened in the distribution age, wealth again began to be created on more massive volumes, and it also began to be created at lightning fast speeds compared to the industrial age, right? So what did we see come about in the distribution age? Well, one of these things that we saw come about in the distribution age, for those who are old enough to remember, okay, what about MTV? We saw MTV. There were so many musicians now, and remember, in the last age, they were still needing permission. Like, it's mind-blowing to me that someone like a Michael Jackson, right, like super talented guy, he was not able to get out there on the radio or to like have a record until somebody said, okay, Michael, you're good enough. Like, what is going on? But because now of all these machines, right, people were building even, you know, record companies, and they would have machines that could make the records en masse, right? And they were still giving permission. Yes, people were still going to schools, but even the school system, even in the 80s, guys, was starting to get outdated, right? Because that was for a past generation, but it wasn't necessarily for this generation or for that generation at that time, right? So now you have all these machines. Let's just take the record industry, for instance. You've got all of these artists who are being given permission because there's enough machines to put them out there en masse. Now we should distribute to them. And what are we going to do? We're going to create things like MTV. Now, this is crazy. I actually heard a story, speaking of Michael Jackson, I heard a story that the first time Michael Jackson tried to get on MTV, they didn't let him. Like, could you imagine? This is like Michael Jackson, man. Whether you like his music or not, the punchline is, like, this guy was extremely, extremely talented. And for, like, one of the most talented people in entertainment who ever lived, right? Like, sing, dance, musician, like, all of it, production. Like, they still told him no the first time around. And it wasn't until the second time they're like, okay, let Michael on. Then as soon as they put Michael Jackson on MTV, that's when MTV actually took off and swept the globe. Okay, so that was one distribution outlet. What was another huge distribution outlet that came out during the distribution age? Well, I don't know, it's this small little company. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before. They're called Walmart. Guys, Walmart was established in the distribution age. Remember what I said with the distribution age, how wealth was created? Whoever owned the distribution outlets in the distribution age, they were the ones who created wealth in their generation. Now, if you're getting value today out of this video, drop some fire emojis in the comments, because here in just a moment, I'm going to get to the age that we're living in today and how you can take advantage, massive advantage, of the crazy opportunities that are available to us in this generation. So you don't have to try to build your fortune in the present by trying to make your living in the past. You have got to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you in your generation. Now guys, with Walmart, Sam Walton, okay, you have all these machines, all this, the goods are being produced now. Now, obviously now we're thousands of years past the agriculture age. So we're not just doing fruits and vegetables anymore. Now we're creating, coffee en masse and clothes en masse and makeup products en masse. And we're distributing groceries en masse. And we're doing all of these consumer goods en masse. So Sam Walton said, man, I got to get in on this. This is the time for my generation. I'm going to own one of the distribution outlets. And guess what? Because he jumped in on the opportunity that was available for his generation, he owned one of the biggest distribution outlets. It wasn't the biggest when he started, by the way. That was what created crazy amounts of wealth. Just like in the industrial age, people who jumped in on trains and coal and train tracks and oil, right? They were the ones who created massive wealth. Think about it. In the agricultural age, we even see in the Bible, the people who were the richest, like Abraham, the Bible says they were very rich in cows and land. And then of course, gold and other money riches. But how did they get the money? Because they had the land. Guys, every single generation, and we're getting to ours here in just a minute, but every single generation, if you want to create real, true, lasting wealth, not just wealth for you, but wealth that lasts to generations, you have got to tap in to what's available to your generation, because that's what Luke chapter 16 says. You've got to be wise in your generation. So what other outlets were created in the distribution age? Okay, we had, for the first time ever, this is where direct sales were created here in the distribution age. Multi-level marketing companies, they were created in the distribution age. Now here's the punchline, guys. I want you to see here, in all these generations, whoever caught the trend first of the massive opportunity that was available to them in their generation, they were the ones who would create the most incredible, mind-blowing, oh my gosh, wealth out of anybody in the generation. It was these people who would catch the trends. So my question to you is, are you looking for trends to catch in your generation? Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's look here. What came next? From about 1981 to about 1999, this was the technology age. In fact, fun fact, okay, in 1978, this little known thing was created. Oops, what am I doing here? This little known thing was created in 1978 called the personal computer, right? And so right at the end of the distribution age, the personal computer was created, and that kicked off the technology age, guys. Where did wealth get created in the technology age? Well, whoever had tech or tech knowledge, whoever controlled the tech or the tech knowledge, they were the ones in this generation to create the wealth. Now, again, I just want to show you as a reminder, okay? Look how time is speeding up with every generation, right? This one was thousands of years. This one was hundreds of years. This one was a couple of decades. This one right here was like just a little over a decade, right? So again, like I keep saying, every generation's economic opportunity, it innovates to the point where it speeds up the process of wealth in the generation, so much so that it replaces itself by birthing the next opportunity in the economy. So we got so good at distribution, people are like, man, how can we speed this distribution thing up even more? And so in the technology age, this is where we begin to see people like Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Michael Dell of Dell Computers. These tech guys and gals, right? They were beginning to innovate. They were beginning to say, okay, how can we take distribution and not just make distribution faster? How can we make distribution like instantly? Like, how can we take this thing, instead of having to drive from here to there or put it on the radio and wait until next Thursday for the record to drop or whatever it was, how can we distribute lightning fast, like immediately? Because if distribution in the distribution age sped up wealth, then guess what else is going to speed up wealth in the technology age? Like, how can we just speed all of that up? How can we do all of that at scale and at mass speed? And that's what technology does. And also there was this other guy that was coming out right about at the end of the technology age. I don't know if you ever heard of him before, but he's this guy named Jeff Bezos, and he created this little technology website, one of the first of its kind, called Amazon.com, guys. Like, think about this. Is this starting to make sense to you now? Like, whoa, this is crazy, right? And every single generation, the way that you create wealth in your generation is to take massive advantage of the opportunities that are available to you in your generation. Don't be like the people in Luke chapter 16 who they're not as wise as the people of the world, right? The children of the light were not as wise. Why? Because they still wanted to do it the way that the old generation did it, right? That's why, in my opinion, this is one of the main reasons why God's people stay broke, that they stay struggling, because they're trying to build their fortune in the present by making a living in the past. Yes, what you're doing right now, it may have worked for your parents. It may have worked for your grandparents. It may have worked for past generations. But if you are not where you want to be in your wealth journey right now, it's because you are still trying to make a living in the past. You got to jump into what is available to us today. Now, I have students all the time who tell me, like, man, this internet thing's crazy, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but this internet thing's a little bit crazy, and you know, I gotta learn how to use social media and this internet thing. Guys, I'm telling you what, like, there are certain things in life that are just worth figuring out. And by the way, I need at least 10 people to drop in the comments if you're gonna be one who figures out the massive opportunity. I'm gonna reveal it to you here in just a second. But the massive opportunity in your generation, if you're going to be one of those who figure it out, who take advantage and create wealth in your generation, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to say, that's me. You drop it 2, 3, 4 times. If that's you, say, man, I'm going to figure this out. It's either going to work or it's going to work. Which one? Right? Like, there are certain things that are just worth figuring out. Every single one of us here, we were born without the ability to walk. But guess what? You didn't just like lay up in your bed for the rest of your life and just like, well, that walking thing is just not for me. No way, man. You figured it out. Why? Because walking was worth figuring out, right? Like, none of us here came out of the womb knowing how to operate a motor vehicle, right? Like, could you imagine, like, and maybe you can, like, for those of you who already drive, like, the feeling of terror as a 16-year-old, I can imagine, I can remember, right? Like, okay, 10 and 2, and there's like 47 mirrors to check, and then I've got to, okay, gas, and then brake, and then red light, yellow light, green light, and this lane or that lane, and I got to put my blinker on and make sure the seatbelts are, like, there's so much to remember, And now my question to you is, how many of y'all, after you've been driving for a few years, maybe last night, maybe you drove home on autopilot. Like you've driven so many times, you figured it out, and now it's so easy to you. You do it as a second nature. And maybe, I don't know about you, but there are many times I drive home on autopilot, not like dangerously, but I zone out and I'm just driving without thinking. And then I pull up into my driveway and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home already? That's crazy, right? Like it happens to all of us. Why? Because like any other skill, right? Like any other opportunity, the more you learn it and the quicker you can figure it out, the easier it becomes and the faster it becomes even like a second nature to you. This is why I'm always talking about, guys, it's easy to get rich. It's easy to create wealth. I know it might seem hard. I know it might feel hard, but when you learn the skills, when you take advantage of the opportunities that are available in our generation, in this generation, and you give yourself to figure it out, you can literally go from like, man, this is hard, to like, oh my gosh, I just made 100K in my sleep. Like that was cool. Like that took no effort at all. You can get there. How do I know this? Because I've done it. My students do it, right? Like I coach people to do this every single day. If I could do it, if my students can do it, you can do it too, right? In fact, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now. Drop these words, say me too. Say me too, that's me, right? So what do we see here in the technology age, all right? Whoever owned the tech, whoever owned the technology knowledge, they were the ones to be able to take advantage of creating massive wealth in their generation. But guys, let's keep on moving on. Okay, guys, so the next generation, this generation, oops, let me tell you the times first. So from about 1999 to about 2007, we moved into the information age, okay? Now, this is crazy because this is the first time in human history that you could create massive amounts of wealth without actually having any physical assets. What does that mean? It means you didn't have to own land, right? You didn't have to have machines or shopping malls or, record labels or grocery stores. Like in the information age, all you needed was to leverage the things that were available to you from the past, not make money the way that they made money in the past, but leverage them to your benefit. You could utilize, the distribution and the tech, use that as a tool to now start putting out information, right? This is where intellectual property began to explode, like songwriters and poets and playwriters, right? Like different kinds of movie writers, like people who could literally just come up with something creative and put it on the internet, distribute it on the internet, and then people would just literally take the information. This was the first time in human history that people begin to make money with selling their knowledge, okay? So let's come back here to the board in the information age, okay? So what was the signs of wealth in the information age, okay? So no one can own all the knowledge, of course, except for God, okay? But whoever controlled the flow of knowledge, they were the ones who would create massive amounts of wealth. Now again, please hear me guys, like this time frame for all of these is relative. Maybe it's in the beginning, maybe it's off by a couple hundred years. Here towards the end, maybe it's off by a couple of years. But the point is, check this out, in the information age, okay, what came in the information age? Well, in the mid to late 90s, guess what happened? This thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, the internet, right? Like the internet was created, obviously a little bit before this, but it went to mass market in the mid to late 90s, and stuff was like, information was just starting to go everywhere, right? Everywhere. And something super, super important that happened here in the information age, okay? Not only the internet, but guess what else was created in this time frame, in this financial age? Guess what else was created here? the very first social medias. Okay, like I'm talking Facebook. How many of y'all remember MySpace from back in the day? MySpace, guys, a huge one. Oops. A huge one. You're watching on this right now. YouTube. Oh my gosh. Like in the information age, whoever controlled the flow of knowledge, they were the ones who created massive amounts of wealth. This is where you have the Mark Zuckerbergs, right? This is where you have the guys at Google, right? Google.com was formed in this time. This is where you've got YouTube, right? The people are coming up with innovation. And again, as a reminder, okay, every generation that has this economic opportunity, all right, when the economic opportunity gets capitalized on, okay, it becomes so efficient in that specific way of doing it that it actually gives birth to the next generation's opportunity and it replaces itself. Okay, watch where I'm going with this. Because here in the information age, remember, you know, these guys who were inspired by like, okay, if distribution is a game, then we got to do this en masse. We got to do this quick. So let's invent technology, right? And then now that we have a little bit of technology, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, the Dells, the Bezoses, guess what they're going to do now? They're going to say, okay, let's leverage technology, not to make money the way that you were supposed to in this age, but how can we innovate for the next age? Let's begin to control the information, right? So that's where the internet came from, social media. Guys like Steve Jobs. Now, by the way, Steve Jobs began to transcend a few of these. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Jeff Bezos, okay, not only did he create tech, not only was he one of the first to like put together Amazon.com, but Bezos began to put together tech and information on the internet, right? And it's so crazy. People don't understand this, but like Amazon.com, it sincerely is almost like a social media. Now, I'm not saying in the sense of like a Facebook or a Twitter where you go on there to be entertained, but it's a social media in the fact that you go onto Amazon to shop, and guess what you do? You go down and you look at the reviews. Like you are literally becoming social and you're making purchasing choices off of the social cues that other customers are giving you. Like it's absolutely insane what is beginning to take place as time speeds up, as opportunities get bigger. And guys, another just quick reminder, every generation that innovates, okay, and they push through, now way more wealth is created. And not only is way more wealth created, but wealth is created faster, okay? Wealth in every generation happens bigger and faster. I need you to break the old broke mindset that, you know, your grandparents had, that you had to work 40 or 50 years, and if you worked really hard and if you saved really hard, maybe one day whenever you're like 60 or 70 years old, maybe you could retire. Well, that's what happened for them. But I'm telling you right now, like it is so possible for people to build wealth, to get rich. Right now in 2024, when I'm recording this video, it is easier than it ever has been ever before in human history because we're not living in our grandparents' generation. There's an opportunity right now for this generation, and I'm about to get there here in a moment, okay? But guys, every generation, the wealth gets bigger and it gets faster. I need at least 5 people in the comments to just drop these 2 words, bigger and faster. Okay, if you want to be a part of the new wealth economy, drop those words in the comments, bigger and faster, okay? So come up here to the board, let's keep going. Now guys, the moment of truth is here. This is the age that I believe that we're in right now. So from 2007 until, who knows how long this is going to take, okay? Now, by the way, we are living in the first economic generation of all of human history. Remember, every economic age speeds up over time, right? The first one took thousands of years, and the next one took hundreds, and the next one took decades, and then on and on and on to where it's just a couple of years. But from 2007 until who knows how long, this is the first time in all of human history that an economic age did not last shorter, it's actually going longer. And now the age that we are in today, okay, this is the age I like to call tech information / education, okay? We are in the age right now of tech information education, okay? So now we're not just using the internet and social media just to like, I don't know if you guys are old enough for this, right? But when I was growing up, you would just like surf the web, right? Like, I'm just surfing the web, like la-di-da-di-da, right? Like whatever, like, oh, what's this website? Well, what's a website, right? Like we were discovering all that back in the day. But now it's not just like surf the web, right? Now it's not just like I posted a picture of my latte on Instagram. It's not that anymore. Now today, it's all about leveraging the tech and the information age, putting them together, and now we're in the tech information education. Think about that, like the technology and the distribution age and the machine ages. None of these ages ever really stopped. They all just begin to mature into the next age. So yes, we still have machines. Yes, we still have agriculture, right? Yes, we still have distribution. Yes, we still have tech, all these. But today, guys, in 2007, something literally like one of the most craziest inventions of all of human history hit in 2007. If you know what it is, drop it right here in the comments, and I'll give you a little hint. Remember I told you that this guy, Steve Jobs, comes back, right? He transcends a couple of different of these industrial ages, or sorry, he transcends a couple of these economic ages. Guess what was created in 2007? You guessed it. It was the iPhone, right? So the iPhone literally took all of the information, and it was a conglomeration of, you know, the industrial, the machines, and the distribution, and the tech, and the information that was available. And now all of it came together into the palm of our hands. And now we're not just sitting here. Yes, we can use the internet for leisure, but now many, many, many of us, just like yourself, because you're watching this video, we use our iPhones and we use social media to learn, to be educated, to be entertained, to shop. Like, it's all happening right here, right? So guys, I want to give you a charge today. I want to encourage you today. Like, the moment that we are in right now, why did we go from all the way in the agriculture age all the way down here to this age of tech information / education? Because I'm telling you right now, guys, one thing that I teach my students is how to create digital products, okay? Like, I'm telling you right now, courses, ebooks, online mentorships, even free content like this on YouTube. Guys, this is going to be a game changer if you jump into an opportunity like this. And by the way, it doesn't have to even be with me, right? It doesn't have to be with one of my programs. I'm just saying you have got to figure this thing out. I had a student recently join one of my programs a little over a year ago, became a millionaire in less than a year. Like, in less than a year became a millionaire. How was that possible? Because I showed them how to be wise in their generation. Listen, if you're struggling right now in your finances, if you're struggling in your wealth creation, it's probably because you're trying to make a fortune today in the present by making a living in the past, right? And guys, I'm telling you right now, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, maybe you're a young person watching this going, man, that sounds crazy and I'd like to do something. It doesn't matter how old, it doesn't matter how young. If you apply yourself and take massive action and massive steps towards the opportunity that is available to you in your generation, guess what's going to happen? You're going to become wise in your generation. You're going to be able to catch these trends of opportunities that are available to us today in 2024. Okay, you can put your knowledge, your experience, your passion, your expertise, you can put it out there onto the internet as a digital product, right? People can and will pay you for the information, and you can literally change your financial future forever. But it's not going to happen if you continue trying to build wealth in your grandparents' generation, in your parents' generation, from 3, 4, 5 generations ago. It's not going to happen. You got to jump on to the opportunity that's available to us today, okay? Guys, thank you so much for watching this training. I hope it was inspiring to you. I hope it stirred some ideas in you of what you can do today to take advantage of this incredible opportunity. The time that we live in right now is absolutely mind-blowing. What if you could tap into King Solomon's wisdom on the #1 most foolproof way on how to build a successful, highly profitable business? Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about that exact thing. However, you're not going to believe this, but the concept comes from a very common and many times overlooked part of God's creation. Let's get into it. Well, guys, isn't it incredible that the wisdom of Solomon was so vast? The wisdom that God gave to Solomon was so vast that the Bible literally says that Solomon could look at animals and, mountains and trees and rivers, and like everywhere he looked, he could just pull God's wisdom out of these seemingly simple parts of creation. And I intend to do a little bit of that today in the training here. And I actually want to start by going to 1 Kings. Let me pull it up here. I want to show you guys this verse here in 1 Kings, okay? Chapter 4, verse 32. And if you guys are taking notes, write this down. 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 32. Mind-blowing, okay? Absolutely mind-blowing. Drop a mind-blowing, like the guy with his mind blown. Drop that kind of emoji in the comments, because this is going to be so crazy, all right? So 1 Kings chapter 4, starting at verse 32, it says this, and this is talking of King Solomon, okay? He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. Let's pause right there. Now, it doesn't say this outright in the scripture, but it is my conviction as we read through the context clues of the Bible, how in the world, in 1 Kings chapter 10, the Bible says that all the kings of the earth and the queens, everyone in high authority came to consult with Solomon. How in the world did this happen, guys? Well, it is my conviction that King Solomon, with these 3,000 plus proverbs and 1,005 songs, could it be that in all the international trade that he would do, right, in all of the business deals that he would do, could it be, I'm just hypothesizing, could it be that maybe he would drop a proverb with the business contract, right? Like, could it be that he would drop 5 proverbs with, hey, when you go and shake the guy's hand and you exchange the money for the camels, give him this handwritten letter from me, and it's going to be, 10 proverbs that I want to just bring value to him. So what was happening here, guys? I believe that Solomon was actually putting out content. Okay, so that's already mind-blowing, okay? Again, it doesn't say it outright, but could it be? Maybe so, right? So verse 32, he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and he had 1,005 songs, okay? Verse 33, he spoke about, watch this, he spoke about trees, even from the cedars of Lebanon, all the way to the hyssop that grows out of the walls. He also spoke of animals and birds, reptiles and fish. From all nations, here it is again, from all nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the earth who had heard his wisdom. So like, this is the crazy part, okay? When God drops a spirit of wisdom upon you in your business, in your finances, okay, you better get ready to expect the byproduct of that is that people are going to begin to seek out the wisdom that God has put on your life. Okay, and how does that happen? Again, I'm just tying together some context clues here. Could it be that when you put content out there to bring value, okay, that people begin to get attracted to, who's this gal? That was pretty cool. Wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. Whatever your niche, whatever your market is, as you're putting content out, and by the way, please don't have the limiting belief of like, well, man, I'm not very good on camera, so I can't put content out. Y'all, you can blog, you can podcast, you can tweet, you can write paragraphs on your Facebook page. It doesn't all just have to be face, okay? But if you guys and gals want to see your business explode to the next level, I would highly encourage you to, number one, start talking about the way that you can help solve people's problems, number one. And then number two, as a byproduct, okay, all the kings of the earth, it says right here that all the kings of the earth actually sent their people to Solomon. Like, mind-blowing, right? Like, whoa, this guy, he dropped me, whatever, 10 proverbs in this business contract that was really helpful for me in my kingdom. Gather up all of the lords and lordesses and send them to Solomon's conference next month, because if he dropped this much value in 10 little proverbs, or whatever the number is, right? I'm hypothesizing again. Imagine what would it be like if we actually went and chilled with him at his event, okay? So I'm telling you guys this right now. I say this all the time, but you have got to start putting your voice out there, because if you don't put your voice out there, your sheep will not be able to know your voice. Jesus said it like this: my sheep know my voice. I tell you guys and gals this all the time. My sheep know my voice, and guess what? Your sheep will also know your voice, but they can't unless you start putting your voice out there, okay? So this is the context of what we're going to be talking about today. And really, I just wanted to take a few moments and encourage you guys and gals who are watching the training right now. I know as entrepreneurs, we're like, okay, it seems so simple. Like Rick's breaking it down. All I really have to do is put value out into the marketplace and do it at a consistent level with volume, to the point where people are going to hear about the solution that I have for their problem. And after they hear about my solution to their problem, chances are they are going to want to engage. You're going to raise their hand, quote unquote. If it's on digital, they might reach out, or they might take your free lead magnet or download your ebook for free in exchange for their name, email, and phone number, whatever it is. But they're going to go, yo, he really sounds like he knows what he's talking about. She really sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Could you help me even more? Like, guys, this is literally how simple it is to build your online business, okay? But today, with all of this context being said, I want to actually go deeper into one of the parts here in 1 Kings chapter 4, where the wisdom of Solomon, it literally says that he spoke of trees. Now, I want to ask y'all a semi-trick question, okay? And let me know down here in the comments, okay? What direction does a tree grow? Now, if you have heard me talk about this before, don't be cheating. Don't be giving it away. What direction does a tree grow? Let me see down in the comments. Okay, what direction does the tree grow? All right, people are saying up, 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 right? But guys, here's the punchline. Trees grow in multiple directions, okay? Come with me here to the board and let's check it out. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the training. I wanted to take a few moments real quick to invite you to join me for my upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge, okay? This is a 5-day live virtual event where I invite entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs just like you to come spend 5 days with me and get live training on the 5 moves that anyone can take in order to scale and skyrocket their business and their revenue. Now, the best way to join is as a VIP, because VIPs get to spend an extra hour with me every single day and ask your questions live. My most successful students have all been VIPs. That's the best way to join. Listen, you don't want to miss the upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge. It's completely live. It's coming up right around the corner. Click the link down below in the description. Grab your ticket today. Now back to the training. You've got the dirt right here, okay? And many people think, which is, true, that a tree, why did that just turn into a triangle? Man, this thing, AI, Skynet's coming. Okay, many people think that here's how a tree grows. It grows up, right? And then there's where the little squirrel lives and stuff, right? And here is how a tree grows. And look, it's got all these beautiful apples, right? And like, wow, look at all the fruit. This is a big, beautiful apple tree. It's got so much fruit on it, right? And everybody passing by always sees, where's my laser at here? Everyone passing by looks at the beauty of the tree from what they can see, and they go, wow, look at all of this fruit. This is incredible. And I want you to think about this in the context of business, okay? How many times have you seen somebody who's crushing it in their business and you're like, oh my gosh, that is so cool? Or maybe, I'm not trying to be salty with some of y'all on here, but some of y'all might be a little salty being like, who does she think she is? Or how come he thinks he can do that? And oh my gosh. And you start comparing yourself to their fruit, right? Because if you're only looking at one direction of growth, you can only see the fruit on top. But the punchline is trees don't just grow up, trees also grow down, okay? And here is the amazing part. I got a couple of crazy stories for you guys and gals today, okay? So this part of the tree that you can see up here, okay? This part, excuse me, the above ground part, this part is called the phototropic part of the tree, okay? And everybody, as they're growing their business, they want the phototropic, fruit. I want my branches to spread out wide. I want so much fruit, like it's crazy. I want to just be like popping off fruit and branches, so when everyone looks, they're going to be like, wow, she's got it all figured out. Wow, he's got it all figured out. But I submit to you that what is more important than the phototropic part of the tree that you can see, guess what's more important? This part down here is called the gravitropic part of the tree. Guys, this is where the roots go down. In fact, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to drop these words. I'm putting down roots. Like, why in the world do people deceive themselves by saying, yo, I want to be so fruitful. I want to have all of this incredible. I want my business to be thriving. But they deceive themselves if they forget that the only way to grow up in God's kingdom, and not just in God's kingdom, in God's order of everything in creation, the only way to grow up is to first grow down. I need at least 10 people in the comments. Drop those words. You've got to first grow down. What does that mean? So this gravitropic work here, okay, this is the work that you are putting in when no one is looking. It's you working on yourself, growing your mindset, making choices, making investments, right? You are taking risks on yourself, going, you know what? I am worth it. I'm going to invest into coaching. I'm going to invest into mentorship. I'm going to take massive action on the information that my mentors are giving me, and I am going to put in the work. And guys, the punchline is this. The reason why the Bible says that all work is profitable is because it will work on you long before it works for you. But the punchline is all work is profitable. Why? Because it's either working on you or it's working for you. Okay, now the concept that I like to teach with this is something that I talk about from time to time here in my trainings, and it's a 3-part concept that ties in to God's order of how you are going to see incredibly awesome growth in your life, in your business, in your success. But before you can grow up, you've got to start growing down. So what are these 3 principles that each and every one of us need to begin to step into if we want to see the growth? I'm glad you asked. Check this out. Okay? The 3 principles are be, do, have. Okay? Be, do, have. Here's a more simple way to say this, okay? You must become who God has called you to become so that you can do what God has called you to do, so that you can have what God has called you to have. Many of you guys and gals know for years I was a worship leader all around the world, 79 nations, stadiums, and everything from like stadiums to trash dumps to missions to like massive conferences and blah, 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 and albums. And those who came in to the part of my journey where they're like, wow, look at all of that fruit that Rick's got. Wow, he is famous and people just love him. But what hardly anybody saw was the roots that I had to put down. And here's the craziest part about it all. In the early days of that journey, in that season of my life, I felt God telling me, I desire for you to have influence in the worship movement. And hear what I just said. God was telling me, I desire for you to have influence in the worship movement. But here's the cool part. This is how God works in our business, in our life, in success, etc. God in his goodness doesn't just say, well, since I desire for you to have this, here everything is. Boom. Right? Like I was telling this story yesterday. So my neighbor, he's got a peach tree growing in his front yard right now. And when the fruit started blossoming at the early part of the season, it was really cool. But all of a sudden now the fruit has gotten so big, like literally the trunk can't handle it anymore. And now the tree is bent over with the weight of the fruit. And unfortunately, I saw yesterday morning that the tree has now broken and split off, and he's probably going to have to cut the thing down. Why? Because there was too much fruit too quick. Okay, so the punchline here is God desires for you to have certain things, certain blessings. Okay, I believe that God wants you and your business to win. Like God, I believe that God says, I want my people to thrive in the marketplace. I desire for you, son, I desire for you, daughter, to have this success. But before you can have the thing, guess what you have to do? You've got to do the work, right? I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to drop these words. Do the work. Like, don't deceive yourself and think that you're going to get a reputation without doing reps, right? The difference between an amateur and a master is an amateur practices until they get it right, but a master practices until they can't get it wrong. You got to put in the work, man. You got to put in the reps. This is how God has designed this whole entire system. And we're learning, like from Solomon's wisdom today, out of how God has designed trees in the world. This is also how God designs for us to grow into our success. But see, a lot of people get the be, do, have backwards. Let me take you to the board here and explain, okay? God's order of success, like I just broke down for you, is be, do, have, and this is for another time, but I would also add a fourth part here, give, but we're not talking about that right now, okay? So that's separate. But here's how most people think about it, okay? Most people, they go, man, I wish I had this thing. I wish I could have some success. And because they start with I wish, now the filter of the I wish is the context, the lens is, oh man, well, that must take so much work. Oh my gosh, there's no way I could do all that work. And that filters through, well man, I'll never be able to have that, right? we'll never be able to afford this. I can't build a business. Like that's too hard. It takes too much. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too this. I'm too that. And they're looking at the order of God's success process in the wrong order. But in order for you to achieve what God has called you to achieve, to have what God's called you to have, you've got to flip the order. Instead of just living here in this instead of just living here in this sad place, oh, must be nice. Oh, must be nice, Rick. Oh, who cares? Like it's easy for Rick. Like he's known and he's rich and it must be nice. First of all, I'm going to tell you right now, it is nice, but not so I could just puff up and be prideful. It's nice to know that I actually did the work. And the way that I was able to do the work is I actually became the person. All right? I need at least 10 people in the comments right now. Drop these words. Become the person. Check this out. So instead of starting, oh man, must be nice. Oh man, I'll never be able to. You need to look at it from this way forward. Okay? I desire, let's just say your goal is to be able to give like a tremendous amount of resources, money, etc., to your family, to your favorite charity, to your church, whatever it is. So you go, man, I would love to do that. So instead of going, oh, must be nice, I'll never be able to do that. What you need to do is say, okay, who do I need to become in order to do what it takes so that I can have what God has purposed for me to have? Quick story for you, okay? going back to my worship days. So a lot of you guys and gals know, I actually me and our community called ourselves musicianaries. We were musical missionaries, 79 nations. We weren't just going to stadiums. We were going to trash dumps and, building orphanages, doing all that stuff. And it was super cool. We would, once a year, we'd host this gigantic missions and worship and prayer event every single year, like 4,000 or 5,000 people every single year. And this thing was expensive, man. If you've ever hosted big events, like our event was one of the cheaper ones that I heard about that was this side, 5,000 people. It costed like $350,000, $400,000. And we're missionaries. Like people are like, Rick's famous. He's rich. He can afford it. Like, bruh, I was a missionary, bruh. Like it wasn't like I'm just out here just like, woo, like money gun all the time. Like I was a missionary in those days. So everything was quote unquote by faith, right? And God in his goodness, we would do the event. We'd receive offerings. We'd sell merch. We'd do the whole thing. And many times, let's say the event was 350,000. Many times at the very, very end, like last offering, last t-shirt was sold, everything was done. God, we did your work. And we would still be like 50 grand in the hole. Like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, God, help us. And guess what, y'all? It was always a businessman or a businesswoman who God would bring into our path, or just one of our business friends would come up and be like, yo, how much did you guys make budget? We'd be like, we're like 70,000 short. And thank God for these businessmen, businesswomen who were like, oh, 70,000? Here. Like, what? Like, and it was so interesting because this happened time after time after time. And people were encouraged, like, wow, Rick's going for it. They're gathering thousands of people and they're impacting the world with all this cool mission. But internally, I was like, God, there has to be a better way. And so all this to say, there was one time we were like 50,000 or something like that in the hole from doing one of these missions events, gigantic mission event. And again, some business person came and they wrote us a check without even blinking. Oh, 50,000 here, wing, and just gave to us. And many times when that happened, me and my wife would go to prayer together and we'd be like, God, thank you so much. This is amazing. And we went to prayer and I was getting ready to just thank you, God, for this miracle. And the first thing that my wife says, hey, before you do that, we're going to give thanks, but I have a prayer that I want to offer to God first. And I said, okay. So she said, God, thank you so much for supplying our needs. And then she says this, how do we become those people, God? And guys, that prayer, that sentence was the linchpin that literally changed the trajectory of our lives, because for once, we were no longer looking from this way back to this way. For the first time, thank God for my wife, she said, God, how do we become those kind of people? It always starts with the B, guys. And here is the punchline. I'm going to give you guys the little secret here, okay? Be, do, have. So guess what? The roots are the be, the trunk is the do, and the fruit is the have. Okay? If you desire to see massive success in your life, you've got to first become the person that it takes. You've got to put down those roots. And the more you put down the roots, the stronger your trunk can get, aka the more you can do. See, so many people, they have this false and limiting belief that making money is hard. Why do they think this? It's because they're looking through the lens of trading time for dollars. And since they only know the context of I make money by trading my time and my effort for dollars, so to make $1 million, it's got to be super hard because I would have to trade a ton of time and a ton of effort. And that means that I come to the conclusion that making money is super hard. It must be hard. And anyone who makes a bunch of money in a short amount of time and they do it easily, it's probably a scam, right? Well, that changes when you start to look at the concept of making money in your business through this lens. Those of us who can make a lot of money in a moment, like guys, I'm not sitting here to boast. I say this, I want to encourage you because I'm just a couple of years ahead in my journey from where you are now. And I want to tell you this right now. It is very common to make 6 figures a day in my businesses. I have made 7 figures in one single day. I've made $1 million in one single day before. And it was easier than me working valet whenever me and my wife got married and running after all these cars and in like the Texas heat for 12 hours a day because I was trying to put in some overtime so I could hopefully get paid an extra $100 for the day. Like, it was way easier to make the $1 million in one day than it was to try to make $200 or $300 a day by getting burned in the Texas heat, running around chasing cars as a valet. Why? Because I have become the person that it takes. I have done the work that it requires, and now I can have the fruit that comes from doing the work because I became the person. And by the way, guys, this never goes away. I'm at a level now that it might seem like, oh my gosh, that sounds so crazy, and like Rick's making this money and this and that. But guys, I'm telling you, I'm still putting roots down that people will not be able to see the fruit of for another year or 2 or 3, because I'm doing work right now on myself that I know, man, I got to go deeper in these roots. I got to become even more. I was telling my wife the other day, we check in a few times a week. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And we were having our quick little meetup, and she asked me, how are you doing? And I said, I'm frustrated. And she says, why? Like, we're doing great. What's frustrating you? I said, I am not who I can be. Like, guys, I'm telling you right now, there's something you need to get inside of your dome when it comes to starting your online business, okay? Just like King Solomon teaching us about trees, it's literally as simple as put your message out there, and the more clearly you can put your message out there, the more people will desire to engage with you. That's the very 30,000 foot view, but the way that actually comes into being and manifests, you have to do the gravitropic work so that you can have the phototropic. And I need you guys to get this in your brain that there is a certain point where you have so much money, it's no longer about chasing dollars, it's about chasing potential. And I'm telling you this right now, you might be in the season where you're like, yo, I'm chasing the dollars right now. I'm trying to change my life, my kids' lives, my family's life. That's good. But I want to submit to you, flip the switch and understand, even now when you might be struggling, even now when you're like, man, how do I get this business thing figured out? Even now where you're just starting, wherever you're at in your journey, if you were to understand now, I'm not chasing the dollars, I'm chasing the potential, everything will click for you way faster, way smoother, and you will be able to achieve success at a lightning fast speed because you simply now have started at the correct part of the process and not the other way around. Man, it would be nice to be rich. We're never going to be able to do that. That must be so hard. You're thinking of it backwards. You got to start saying, who do I need to become? I'm telling you guys, this is why people who win the lottery go broke like 2 or 3 years later. Why? Because the bag went up, their bank account went up, but their mindset stayed down, right? They didn't become the person it took to be able to steward the millions of dollars. So guess what? It's gone in a moment. Same thing goes for professional athletes, right? They go from like broke or struggling, trailer park in the projects, whatever it is. A lot of times they come from like really hard situations. They get this scholarship. Hey, now you're the basketball player. Now you're the football player. And here's a $5 million contract. And guess what? Most of these guys and gals who get these massive $1 million contracts for the NBA or the NFL, they go broke just a couple of years later. Why? Because the money went up and the mindset stayed down. Okay, you've got to become the person first so that you can do what is required to do so that you can have what God desires for you to have. Couple of quick stories and then we're going to wrap this up, okay? How many of y'all know there is a Chinese bamboo tree, okay? There is a Chinese bamboo tree that when you plant it, it does not grow for 6 years. Could you imagine, like, and that's easy to hear in passing, like, oh, wow, that's cool. But no. Put yourself in the position of the guy or the gal who actually planted the bamboo seed, right? And you're showing up every day, watering this thing. You're diligent, right? You're sticking with it. The sun's shining. You're watering this thing. And you stick with it for a whole entire year. And guess what happens? Nothing. And you do it again for a whole entire year, diligent every single day. You're watering this thing. You're making sure the soil's just right? The sun's doing its work and you're being patient for another year. And guess what happens at the end of year 2? Nothing. But what you don't know is that what appears to be nothing to you on the surface, on the phototropic side, There is actually crazy work being done underneath the surface on the gravitrophic side. And here's the craziest part about this story, okay? After 6 years of no top growth whatsoever, in the 7th year, the Chinese bamboo tree begins to break ground. And guys, here's the craziest part. Within the first 6 weeks, this Chinese bamboo tree grows over 80 feet tall just in the first 6 weeks. Why? Because that tree was putting in the gravitrophic work, okay? And the same thing is going for you in your business right now. You might be sitting here going, man, nothing's working, nothing's working. It may not feel like it's working on the surface because it's not working for you yet, but guess what? It is working underneath the surface and it's working on you. Listen, it takes a special kind of man, special kind of woman to be able to look at a muddy field and see a garden. It takes a special kind of gal, a special kind of guy to plant a Chinese bamboo tree of your business and say, I know it's going to be worth it. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be diligent. I am not going to give up because I know how God works. The roots have got to go down first before the shoots and the fruits can go up on the top. And guys, the reason why some people are successful, but most people are not, is because most people are not willing to put in the gravitrophic root work. Why? Because when you're putting in root work, man, it's cold, it is gross, it is dark, right? It is hard. Like, it's really hard to grow down into the dirt, right? Like, that's hard, that's gross, that's dark. No one wants that. That's not the Lambos, that's not the jets, that's not the vacations, that's not the financial freedom, that's not I gave X and Y and Z to my favorite charity. That's like the root work, man. No one wants to do that. But the punchline is this, and if you're taking notes, write this down. Who you become in the dark, or in other words, who you become in the night, will be revealed in the light. What does that mean? The reason why you look at somebody and they're achieving success, you're like, that's amazing, they're so lucky. No, they're not so lucky. You know what happened? They had become a person in the night, in the dark, right? They had done work in the night. They had done work in the dark. And now that the light is on, see, because guys, the punchline is this: the light always reveals the night, right? If you look at someone, they're achieving success and you desire to have that same kind of success, then you have also got to desire to put in that work at night. Because I'm telling you guys this, if you can become who God has called you to become, then you can do what God has called you to do, and then you can finally have what God has called you to have. Just imagine what it would feel like to plug your business into the exact same framework that 100% of all successful businesses around the world use to get massive profits. Well, I'm here to tell you in today's training, I'm going to be giving you the 5 foolproof steps that anyone can take to scale and skyrocket their businesses. I'm talking companies like Amazon, Tesla, Apple, and many, many, many more use this exact system. And today, I'm going to make it available to you as well. Let's jump into the training. So guys, today I want to break down for you guys what I call the cycle of success. What is the cycle of success? Now, here's one thing that I have learned about God over my years of walking with God and studying His Word. God does many, many, many things secular. Okay, what does that mean? It means that almost everything that God does is in seasons, okay? And when we begin to take that idea and that concept that, okay, you know, there's spring, summer, winter, fall, right? And then there are even star seasons. And, you know, the Bible says that the stars and the heavens and, you know, the moon, like they're for times and seasons, right? Like He has designed women on cycles. Like a lot of what God does is secular. So when we begin to take this idea like, okay, if God has a lot of His institution of creation on cycles, maybe we should also build our business on cycles, okay? So I want to share with you guys today a framework that when you begin to plug in your ideas, your skills, your passions into this framework, you are absolutely going to begin to taste the same kind of success that every other successful business in the world experiences using this framework here, okay? Let's come with the board and let's get into it, okay? So the first thing you've got to focus on is you have got to get clear, okay? By the way, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to drop these two words. Get clear, okay? You've got to get clear on who you want to serve, okay? I'm telling you guys and gals this right now. I tell my students all the time, clarity is the secret sauce. If you are unclear about who you're serving, if you are unclear about how you're serving them, if you are unclear and you're like, well, it's kind of like this, I think I'm serving those people. If you are unclear, then it's going to be very, very difficult for your market to want to engage with you in the place of business. Why? Because a confused mind never buys. This is one of the biggest mistakes that new and aspiring entrepreneurs begin to make in their journeys, is they are just so unclear. Like, well, I'm helping people who like basketball. Okay, cool, that's awesome, but like, what about basketball? Because every niche, every market in itself is its own world. And I would even go as far as saying like every niche, every market is its own universe. Like there are so many intricate details and so many intricate parts that go into every single niche, every single market. One of the best ways to begin to build wealth is to get very clear on who you want to serve. Okay, this isn't just pick your niche. Okay, like I picked my niche. Like, okay, that's good, but I'm not just talking about pick your niche. I'm talking about, yes, pick your niche, but get clear on who is that person, who is that avatar, right? Now, of course, you can go overboard with this. I usually like do a silly example, like, you know, someone might say like, well, my niche is I help, Japanese soccer moms who love to bake cupcakes on Thursdays, but only red cupcakes, help their children tie their shoe with chopsticks. I don't know. I'm making up something so ridiculous. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who is that person, right? I'm not talking about like niching down to the point where it's like absolutely like ridiculous. Like I'm helping grandmas who juggle on the rocking chair only on Tuesday afternoons, and they have to be at least 87 and a half years old. Like, does that exist? It maybe, I don't know. But the point is, I'm not talking about niching down to like niching it down to death. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about who is the avatar. Yes, you've got your niche, but let's get clear on exactly who that person is, okay? Why do we need to get clear on this? Because of what comes next. Check this out. Next step in the cycle of success. Okay, you want to come up with an obvious solution to your market's obvious problems. Ooh, it's hard to talk and write at the same time. Problems. There it is. Okay, so why is this like, it seems so simple, but think about this, guys. This is Business 101. Business 101 is this. Your market, right now you're clear. You didn't just pick your niche, but you actually have clarity on who is the exact person I want to help. Okay, now that you have that clarity, then the next very, very obvious thing to do is, okay, what problem does this person have? What problem, what's their biggest frustration that this avatar has, and how can I come up with an obvious solution to this obvious problem? And by the way, like, if you know your market good enough, which, you know, if you've chosen that market to serve and you've gotten clear on who you want to serve, chances are you understand that every market, every niche has multiple problems, right? Like for instance, earlier I was talking about basketball. Like there's many levels to basketball. Like, you know, do you want to help them dribble? Do you want to help them shoot? Do you want to help them with their handwork, right? Do you want to help them on offense, on defense? Do you want to help them do three-pointers? Do you want to help them guard? Do you want to help them, whatever it is, right? So now that you've got clarity, okay, you've got to come up with an obvious solution to their obvious problems. Because guys, business 101 is this: become more obsessed with the market's problem than they are, and obsess over solving that problem for them more than they obsess over the problem itself. What? That's the secret sauce, guys. This is business 101. Like everybody out there, like, here's another example, okay? Let's talk about Starbucks, okay? So there's millions of people out there who they're too busy in the mornings to try to, you know, make coffee before they run out the door, right? So guess what Starbucks did? Starbucks like, yo, this is who we want to serve. We want to serve these people. And of course, it's evolved over time, and your niche and your market will too. But this was how it started, right? We're going to help people who don't have time on their way out the door to work. We're going to make it super convenient for them to get a delicious, amazing coffee to put a smile on their face, right? And so what they do, they got clear on who they want to serve, and then they came up with an obvious solution to their market's obvious problem, okay? And the crazy part about this is when you begin to start doing this for your market, for your niche, for your person that you desire to serve, guess what happens? They say thank you back to you in the form of dollar signs, baby. Guess how those people, I don't know why I'm like going so crazy on this. Guess how all those people who drink Starbucks every single day, guess how they say thank you to this business for solving their problem? They go, oh man, okay, thank you so much, here you go. And they give them money. Guys, the same thing goes for your haircut. The same thing goes for the gas station. The same thing goes for your clothes. The same thing goes for, my cameras. And like, there are so many problems for so many markets and niches. If you can get clear, and then you can figure out an obvious solution to their obvious problem, you will have no problem making money, because if you can figure out how to solve people's problems, then you will have no problem with people telling you thank you in return with their dollar signs. Here's a bonus tip, okay? In fact, I need at least 5 people in the comments say, I want the bonus tip. What's the bonus tip? Here is the bonus tip, guys. The bonus tip is this. If you desire to make even more money with your business, then you should consider solving bigger, more expensive problems, okay? Like, yes, there are people out there who need a Starbucks, like I just said, right? That's a $5, $6, $7, maybe where you live, an $8 or $10, answer to your problem. But there are people out there who also desire a car, and that's a $30,000, $40,000, depending on what car you got, $100,000. There are elite people in the car industry who they desire a $500,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and they pay that thing. Why? Because that's what they desire. That's their problem. And so if you want to make more money, get super clear, okay? And then figure out what is the most expensive problem I can solve for people in this market, and solve this problem for them well and charge them well. And I'm telling you right now, people will have no problem paying you for your solution. Here's why. If you're taking notes, write this down. Here is why. Because when the value is present, the price is irrelevant. What does that mean? When you are solving someone's problem, like, ow, I banged my pinky ring, or what, I don't know what this is, my pinky finger. Ow, I smashed my pinky finger, right? Like, it's a problem, right? But that's a much different problem than, oh my gosh, I just accidentally sliced my jugular, right? Like, those are two extremely different problems. One problem is, in my opinion, like a commodity, right? Like, oh, I got a little headache. That's a commodity. One problem is I need some help right this second. What's your price? Because I need to live. That is the kind of problem that you should desire to solve in your business, because when you solve those kind of problems, people, they're just way more willing to pay you. They're way more willing to pay even more. And honestly, whenever you charge more, you attract better clients. Okay, if you're getting value, drop some fire emojis in the comments. And also, if you're ready for number 3 in the cycle of success, drop a 3 in the comments. Let's go. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the training. I wanted to take a few moments real quick to invite you to join me for my upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge, okay? This is a 5-day live virtual event where I invite entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs just like you to come spend 5 days with me and get live training on the 5 moves that anyone can take in order to scale and skyrocket their business and their revenue. Now, the best way to join is as a VIP, because VIPs get to spend an extra hour with me every single day and ask your questions live. My most successful students have all been VIPs. That's the best way to join. Listen, you don't want to miss the upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge. It's completely live. It's coming up right around the corner. Click the link down below in the description. Grab your ticket today. Now back to the training. So what's the next step in the cycle of success? Okay, so now you've gotten super clear. Okay. Next thing, you've come up with an obvious solution to your market's obvious problems, okay? Now the next thing you want to do is you want to create a digital product to solve that problem. Now, by the way, you can solve people's problems with your business with a product or a service, okay? A product is something that you sell and they purchase it from you and then they can use the product. A service is something that you do, right? Like a product in, let's just take lawn care, okay? A product in lawn care is I sell lawnmowers, I sell weed whackers, I sell, what are those things called? Chainsaws, what were we saying? Edgers, right? I sell those products, but the service is I actually use the lawnmower, I use the edger, I use the chainsaw, right? My suggestion to you is, instead of trying to build your business off of services, this is what a lot of newbie entrepreneurs try to do, is like, I'm gonna start a window washing service. That's cool, right? I'm gonna start a lawn mowing service. That's cool, and that's obviously needed. You are solving a problem. However, when you try to solve the problem of your market with a service, guess what's happening? Now you are just doing a glorified version of trading your time for dollars. So why do I suggest to my students and to you that are watching here to create a digital product to solve people's problems? Because with a digital product, you can create this product, which, by the way, a digital product is an educational resource. It's like an ebook, a course, a mentorship, a program, right? You create the product one time, and whenever you put it out there, if it's a good market match, okay, you were super clear, this is an obvious solution to an obvious problem, and then I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but you start putting it out there, right? This digital product that you worked on one time will now be able to solve the problem in the market, that specific problem, over and over and over. So what does that mean? If they're buying it over and over and over, that means you get paid over and over and over. I need at least 10 people in the comments to say, get paid. Get paid, man. So why do you want to create a digital product? There's multiple reasons, okay? So number 1, you can do the work one time and then it pays you over and over and over. Number 2, there's no inventory. Some of you guys and gals might know this, but my wife and I, about 4 or 5 years ago, we started an e-commerce brand, and it did pretty successful. And it was super crazy because the more we grew, the more I had to have warehouses to host my inventory. Like this was nightmare level, guys. Like then I would have to work with suppliers overseas. And that like there were so many like out of control dominoes that were like just so crazy. Like I had nothing to do. And if somebody did something wrong somewhere, then the whole business would mess up. And then if somehow everyone did everything right, like all 47 peeps and 47 steps, went smooth. Then I had to find a place to house all of these products that I was selling online. But guess what? With a digital product, you create it, it's hosted on the cloud or on your funnel or your service or your website or whatever it is, and that's it. Like, so that's the second thing. Number one, you create it once, it pays you over and over and over. Number two, there's no overhead except for like, you're gonna need like a phone and a laptop, which most people have, right? Number three, you don't need a staff to send your products out there. Like when I was selling e-commerce, and we're selling hundreds and thousands of these products, like, you know, every single day, I needed people to actually ship the stuff out for me. Like, there's so many layers to services or physical products that will bog you down and dramatically increase the overhead of your business quicker than you could ever imagine. So step number three, I suggest after you get clear, after you figure out a way to solve an obvious problem solve an obvious problem with your obvious solution, the third step you should absolutely do is create your digital product so that you can solve that problem with your digital product. If you're ready for step number four, drop a 4 in the comments. Step number 4. Okay, step number 4, you have got to market your solution. Okay, by the way, notice that we're going in a cycle here. Okay, 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, 3 leads to 4. Okay, we're going somewhere with this. Watch this. Okay, so step number 4, market your solution. What does this mean? I tell you guys this all the time. If they don't know you, then they cannot flow you. What does that mean? It means you could have the most incredible digital product in the universe that solves the craziest problem for your market that ever existed, and it's the best one ever. But if nobody knows, then it doesn't matter. If you're taking notes, write this down. The best known always beats the best product. The best known always beats the best product. Now, I'm not saying don't have the best product. You should absolutely aspire to have the best digital product, the best, most obvious answer to their problem with your solution, right? You should obviously aspire for that, but I'm telling you this. Does McDonald's make the best hamburger you've ever had in your life? No or no? And the answer is no. But are they the most known? And the answer is yes. Now, of course, there's others out there who are pretty known as well, but because McDonald's is the most known, the best known beats the best product every single time. So now that you've got clear, now that you have an obvious answer to your market's obvious problem, now that you have created your digital product to solve that problem, you have got to start telling people about the solution that you can offer them. And here's how you're going to do it. You are not going to do it by leading with asking first. What does that mean? Okay, a lot of people, especially when they're starting new businesses, make this mistake. Yo guys, my new course is out. Click the link. Make sure to buy it right now. Woohoo! Right? Like, please. And then because nobody likes that feeling, you and I included, okay? No one wants to feel spammed. Like, what the heck? I don't even know this person, and they're like asking me for a relationship already, right? Hey guys, if you're new here, buy my new course, woohoo. You're gonna tell them no, and so is the next guy, and so is the next guy, and so is the next guy. Why? Because what you want to do is you want to not lead with asking first, you want to lead with value first. How are you gonna do this? You are going to begin to tell the market different tips, different ways, different strategies that they can be helped with their problems. Well, Rick, what if I give away too much? Like, man, if I give away too much secret sauce, why would they buy from me? That is a scarcity mentality, number one. Okay, so if you're scared to put out content, if you're scared to give away something that is so good for free that people may not buy from you, you have a scarcity mindset. Okay, an abundance mindset says, I have more than enough information to go around for the whole entire market, and I'm here to serve. And the punchline is this: if I can serve enough people in my market at a high enough level with my free value content, then guess what's going to happen? Not 100% of them, but a large percent of them are going to go, man, this gal is incredible. Man, this guy is awesome. He knows what he's talking about, right? And then they're going to want more of a relationship with you. Why? Because you actually led with giving instead of led with asking, right? There is so much truth to Jesus's statement, it is better to give than to receive. That's not just with money. It's not just with, tithes and offerings. That is with value. That is with content. That is with serving your market. If you can give more, like I'm telling you this, I want to offer a challenge to each and every one of you in this training right now, okay? I want to challenge you over the next 30 days. Enter this challenge with me, okay? Who can put out the most value for their niche, for their avatar that they've chosen to serve? Who can put out the most incredible free value content that anyone has ever seen in that niche? I'm telling you this right now. If you're posting, let's just say 1 time a week, and the post is okay, right? You're going to help some people. Some people will check it out. But if you're posting 1 time a day, guess what happens? Now you give yourself more at-bats, right? And let me ask you a question. Who has a better chance of knocking it out of the park? The person with 1 at-bat or the person with 100 tries at-bat? And the obvious answer is the person with more at-bats. So I want to encourage you guys, enter this challenge with me. Start putting out crazy valuable content to your market, okay? That is so good that they're just like, this gal is incredible. This guy is incredible. I must engage in a deeper relationship with them. Guys, that's getting known 101. That is serving your market 101. It don't matter how good your digital product is. You could have the best course, the best mentorship, the best whatever in the world. If they don't know you, they can't flow you, okay? If you're ready for number 5, drop a 5 in the comments. Let's go, okay? So step number 1, you got to get clear on who you want to serve. Step number 2, obvious solution to the market's obvious problem. Step number 3, create a digital product to solve that problem. Step number 4, market your solution, or in other words, you got to get known. Number 5, when the people, okay, when you have when you have done this cycle and the market is now interested, like, wow, she's really great, or wow, he's really cool. Like, I want to know more. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to walk up to you, whether that's digitally, if you have an actual brick and mortar store, they're going to walk in the door and be like, hey, this place is cool. When you begin to put your voice out there and serve your market at a high level with free, valuable content, now they're going to be attracted to you. Jesus said, my sheep know my voice. I tell you guys and gals, your sheep will also know your voice. Okay, but they can't if you don't put your voice out there. So you put your voice out there, you start telling people like how you can serve them, you give them tips and tricks to solve their problems for free. They're like, he's amazing, she's amazing. Sorry, my mic's falling here, but I think I got it. That's awesome. And then they walk up to you either into your physical store or into your digital DMs or your comments. Wow, John, this is cool. Wow, Susan, thanks so much. This was great. Now that you have them there and they have received your free ebook or they've downloaded your free e-course, like, wow, if the free one's this good, like, tell me more. Like, do you have something else, right? Then what you need to do, now that they know you, you got to get them to flow you. And so what do you need to do? You have got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to sell, man. Too many new entrepreneurs, too many people in society, not just in society, but in church culture as well. So many people struggle with the idea of sales. Why? Because most people say something like this, like, oh, sales is so slimy. I have a really good friend who is an entrepreneur, and they struggle in their business all the time. Why? Because they don't want to come across salesy, they don't want to be slimy, or their limiting belief is like, I'm not a salesperson, okay? Listen, if you are in business, you are a salesperson, okay? But let me break this down for you right quick, okay? Why is this idea that selling is bad? Why is that in our culture? Well, it's simple, because each and every one of us have had a really bad or yucky or weird sales experience, okay? Now, this is unfortunate, but it's just the truth. All of us remember the bad sales experiences, but none of us remember the good sales experiences. Why? Because a bad sales experience is the person trying to sell you something so that they can benefit, right? Hey man, just do me a favor, please just buy this thing. They're needy. There's a scarcity mentality, right? And they have needer energy, N-E-E-D-E-R. They have needer energy. Please, would you just please buy it? Do me a favor. The sale is transactional, not so that your life can get better, but so my life can get better. Please buy from me, right? Every single one of us have had slimy, weird sales experiences like that. We're like, ew, all sales is bad. But I want to encourage you, the only reason why anyone, anywhere has any money is because somebody somewhere sold something for a profit. I had a student recently go, well, Rick, I'm a secretary. Like I make money because I work at my, exactly. The business that you are a secretary for is selling something to someone for a profit, right? I've had ministers and pastors and, charity owners be like, well, that's not true. We get money because people give. Exactly. How do they get their money? Because they work somewhere that sells something for a profit, or they themselves have a business that sells something for a profit. I want you guys, if you're taking notes, write this down. Selling is good because selling is serving. Selling is good because selling is serving, okay? So remember what I said, all of us remember the bad sales experiences, but none of us remember the good sales experiences. Why is that true? Because the good sales experiences that all of us have experienced, guess what? We thought it was our idea. Like, how many times have you gone, ladies, maybe you went and you got that new pair of shoes and you're like having brunch with the girlfriends and like, oh girl, those shoes look so good. Your earrings are blah, blah, and they're like just going off about your thing like, oh yeah, don't you like them? They're so cool, blah, blah. Like, you're not saying like, man, that shop ripped me off. Like, it was a slimy sales experience. You're not saying that. Why? Because you purchased those earrings thinking that it was your idea to purchase them, when in reality, that business sold them to you. Are y'all tracking with me? Just wave at me. Drop some fire emojis if y'all are tracking with me, okay? Like the good sales experiences, let me break it down. Bad sales experiences are when the person is trying to make a sale with needer energy to make their life better. Good sales experiences, you have leader energy, L-E-A-D-E-R, not a needer, but a leader. You have leader energy who says this product, this service is so desirable to you, it solves a problem or a desire in your life. Here's what it is, here's the price. And the person goes, wow, this looks really amazing. And the offer is so good, they feel dumb not to take it. How could I not buy the shoes? How could I not get 2 for 1, whatever it is, cupcakes for my kids or whatever in the world it is, right? Like, how could I not? Like, exactly. So you never go around all those good deals that you're like, oh man, I got this good deal on this new laptop, or man, I got this great deal on my tractor if you're a farmer or whatever. I got this great deal. They sold that to you. But because the person making the sale did it to actually make your life better and not their life better, there was a different heart and a different spirit behind the sale. How many of you guys and gals, you've actually purchased something recently that when you purchased, you're like, man, that was I'm so excited. Something's about to change, or man, I really love this shirt, or man, I'm so glad that we finally got the new car. You did that because there was a good spirit behind your sales. And guess what? If that happened to you, which it has, yes, you've experienced bad sales experiences, but you've also experienced just as many, if not more, good sales experiences. If that happened to you, you need to make sure to have that experience be the experience that your clients experience, okay? And you can do this. How do you do this? Don't position yourself as a needer, position yourself as a leader, right? Don't try to make a sale with scarcity, like, please buy it, please, oh my gosh. You're doing that for you. Position yourself saying, hey, here's how I help people. This is how I solve their problems. Would you like it or not? Tell me yes, tell me no, but tell me now because I gotta go. I'm here. If you're taking notes, write this down. When it comes to sales, you are not looking for yeses, you are looking for decisions. When it comes to sales, you're not looking for yeses, you're looking for decisions. What does that mean? I'm not trying to get you to say yes to me. I'm just trying to get you to decide. Because for every 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 of you that tell me no, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of you are going to tell me yes. So my position is not needy scarcity. Please buy it. Oh, please, please, whatever, please. I need you to buy. Do me a favor. It's not that. It's like, hey, here's how I solve problems. Would you like to work with me to solve your problem or not? You don't? Okay, cool. Good job making a decision. Would you like to get helped? Here's how I solve problems. Oh, you do? You would like to be helped? Cool. Come on over here. I'll help you. Would you like to have your problems? Like, this is business, guys. This is it. Here's how I help. And guess what? The whole time I'm doing this, somebody's doing it back to me, right? Like, yo, Rick, I got this incredible, amazing digital board here. Would you like this or not? I told 2 or 3 people no before I told this company yes. Just how it goes, okay? So here's where I wanted to close the loop, okay? Check this out. Remember I told you that this is a cycle? So what does all of this mean? Okay, let me adjust this here just for a minute. Watch this. This is so cool. Okay, I've been using this system since I found it out. Okay, when you get clear, when you have an obvious solution to the problem, when you create your digital product, when you market it, and when you learn how to sell, something amazing happens. Okay, the more people that buy from you, the more data you get back from your customers, and guess what it helps you do? It helps you to become more clear on who you are serving. Drop some fire emojis in the comments if you guys are getting this, right? Like, guys, plug in any business that you can think of. Plug in any business that is successful. This is their business model. Let's take Apple, for instance, okay? Let's start back in the day because they didn't always start out at this level. This is how you grow, by the way. It's one of the ways you grow. Apple, they said, okay, who do we want to serve? We want to serve people who want personal computers and not just a computer that is as big as the living room. Okay, so we are going to come up with an obvious solution to their obvious problem. What is that solution? Again, I suggest doing digital products. Apple did physical products. They do have digital products. But in this context, they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create the first personalized laptop, right? And then guess what they did? They created a laptop, and then what did they do next? They told the market about it. And then after they told the market about it, they sold a bunch of them. And then guess what happened? After they sold a bunch of them, they were able to get even more clear, like, hey guys, it would be super cool if we could actually get these computers like bite-sized in the palm of our hand. And they go, wow, okay, so we're getting even more clear because we made sales, so now we're getting even more clear. How do we come up to another obvious solution to this new obvious problem? If you're taking notes, write this down. Every answer that your business solves will create 10 more problems. But the cool part about businesses is that entrepreneurs don't see problems as problems. We see them as opportunities, okay? One more example, let's just take Amazon or whatever, okay? And you guys are getting it. So Amazon, how did they start? A lot of people like books. We should serve people on the internet who want to buy books from the internet, not just from the store. Okay, how can we do this? We should sell books on the internet. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to build a platform that we can solve that problem and sell them books on the internet. Then what are we going to do? We're going to market and show them, guys, you could buy books from us here on the internet. Then we're going to sell them the books on the internet. And then people go, you know what would be really cool? It'd be cool if we didn't just buy books. Like, what if we could buy toothpaste and shoes and furniture? And they go, hey, we can gladly do that for you as well. Here we go. Guys, you can buy it all here. Selling, and then on and on and on and on and on. I'm telling you this right now. If you desire for your business to scale and skyrocket, you must plug your business into this framework that I call the cycle of success.